So we're continuing our discussion now on repopulating a drop-down box by making an Ajax callback. And now, as you recall, when we clicked on this choice over here, we set the initial value of the drop-down. So let's go look then at that control, and we can see that this control is calling a next basic function called repopulate2. So if we go look at repopulate2, we can see that the only difference between repopulate and repopulate2 is that after we sort the data, we get the value from the first row of the data, which is going to be our initial value, and then we need to do a JS escape in case that initial value contains any special characters like a single quote or something like that. So this makes JS escape makes the value safe for JavaScript. And then the only difference between repopulate2 and repopulate is that initially here we set the value of initial value to be nothing, and here we're setting it to be initial value. So you can see our JavaScript response then has a single quote, then the initial value, then the close single quote over there. So now when I press this value, we can see you can set the initial value to aqua, but if I would have gone here, for example, and said initial value equals red, and then run it, as long as red was in that list, then you can see that we've set that over there. So now finally we're going to go here and choose the add to choice button, and what this button does is call this xbasic function, which again is very similar to the previous functions, excepting that the JavaScript that gets sent back, so this is the JavaScript that gets sent back. What this JavaScript does is it executes before it calls the A5 form populate select function. The first thing that it does is it reads the current value of the drop-down box and puts it into a JavaScript variable called cur_data, and then when we call the populate form function over here, cur_data is passed in as the default value to use when you populate the drop-down box. And then finally this final argument here is set to false, which means do not remove the existing data from the drop-down box. You can see in these two previous cases here we set that final argument to true. So now when we go here to do working preview, if I choose say C and then I say add choices to list, we've added the choices to the list, but we've still kept C as the current selection. So you can see now how it's quite easy using an Ajax callback and the Alpha 5, the built-in Alpha 5 method called A5 form populate select to dynamically repopulate the choices in a drop-down box. Hope you found that interesting. Thanks very much.